Hello, economics, and welcome to lesson 4 of Unit 3. Our topic today is business ethics. What constitutes acceptable business behavior? That question is as old as business itself. But a recent string of questionable business decisions in expanding global markets highlight its importance. One concern is that firms, eager to maximize profits, might jeopardize the health and safety of workers, customers, and other members of society. Almost all production involves trade-offs between the creation of profits and the creation of pollution, which forces corporate leaders, consumers, and governments to grapple with the ethical responsibilities of firms. This lesson addresses some of the relevant issues to assist you with your own debates and decisions about business ethics. Business ethics can come into play whether you are investing in businesses through, for instance, your retirement accounts like a 401k, or whether you start a business. It could also come into play if you choose not to support a business that you feel is operating outside of your ethics. So let's take a look at what our key idea is. So our key idea for this lesson is that increasingly businesses are expected to pursue not only profits, remember that's the main motivator for any business, but the ethical treatment as well of workers, consumers, communities, and the environment. Our learning objectives for this lesson. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to explain 2 viewpoints in the controversy over corporate responsibility. You should be able to describe how public scrutiny of business behavior has increased in modern times. And lastly, you should be able to identify ways in which firms can make decisions about questionable behavior. In the early 2000s, a new wave of corporate scandals shook consumer confidence in American businesses. The allegations involved accounting firms misrepresenting profits, pharmaceutical companies selling dangerous medicines, airlines putting off aircraft maintenance, government contractors overcharging taxpayers, and assorted acts of bribery, theft, fraud, dishonesty, and abuse. These scandals and the hardships caused by this corporate mischief brought the topic of business ethics out of the shadows and into the headlines. Business ethics is the examination of standards for right and wrong behavior by firms. When companies pursue right actions, their behaviors are considered ethical. When companies pursue wrong actions, their behaviors are considered unethical. But what is right and what is wrong in the conduct of business? There is still considerable disagreement on this question. Perceptions of right and wrong business behaviors have evolved over time. During much of America's economic history, it was right for a business to focus almost exclusively on building a profitable enterprise and rewarding investors with high earnings. The damage caused by unsafe working conditions or damage to the natural environment was not a pressing concern. In this type of business environment, the clearly wrong business actions were decisions, policies, or practices that interrupted the flow of profits to investors. In modern times, it is more common to consider the impact of a business on many stakeholders in the economy: workers, consumers, investors, other businesses, and local communities. It is also better understood that a healthy environment is vital to all those stakeholders and to the supply of natural resources that are inputs into production. That is, if trees couldn't grow, there would be no paper for books. There is a growing consensus that right business actions or ethical behaviors can support profitable business enterprises and, at the same time, promote the well-being of other people in the environment. Wrong actions or unethical behaviors are business actions that pursue profits without regard to the other stakeholders or society at large. Society's laws and regulations have kept pace with this changing view of business ethics. Many practices that were once considered close to unethical but legal are totally illegal today. For example, In 1970, the U.S. Congress created the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, known in shorthand as OSHA. OSHA required employers to protect the health and safety of their workers in specific ways, such as limiting exposure to toxic fumes and deafening noise. Similarly, the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act, originally passed by Congress in the early 1970s, limit the amount of pollution that factories, mills, mines, and other businesses can release into the environment. In the first decade of the 2000s, two events renewed the public's interest in business ethics. The first was the wave of corporate scandals mentioned earlier. Corporate corruption toppled leaders in several U.S. corporations, including Adelphia, Enron, and WorldCom. The corruption took different forms, but a common theme was apparent: unethical business practices that had crossed the line into illegal behavior. Top corporate executives took actions to enrich themselves at the expense of other stakeholders, especially employees and stockholders. The business leaders spent company funds for personal pleasures, devised or encouraged fraudulent accounting practices, supplied false and misleading information to investors, and lied to federal investigators. After years of litigation, the unethical behaviors of many top executives earned them stiff prison sentences and hefty fines. The second event that spurred public debate about business ethics was the financial crisis of 2008. This time, the problem was irresponsible behavior and excessive risk-taking by managers and employees of financial institutions. Their collective behavior brought the world's financial system to the brink of collapse. While an actual collapse was prevented, the crisis caused vast amounts of harm. Households around the world lost trillions of dollars of wealth. Millions of jobs were destroyed. Many economists believe that the entire structure of incentives in the financial system had encouraged irresponsible behavior and actually punished those trying to act responsibly. In 2009, governments around the world, including the U.S. government, responded. They began to explore ways to reorganize financial markets and financial institutions to prevent a repeat of the 2008 crisis. Before the year is out, initial steps had already been taken. In the United States, the Federal Reserve, one of the agencies that regulates banks, cracked down on hidden charges and misleading information for consumers who held checking accounts and credit cards. Congress began the creation of an entirely new government agency, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or CFPB. It would be empowered in 2011 to issue regulations and standards to protect consumers from misleading information and other unethical behavior by banks, credit card companies, investment advisors, mortgage brokers, and others offering financial services to the public. These efforts by the government illustrate one way to decrease unethical behavior, by making it illegal. But beyond the law, how does a company encourage ethical business behaviors by its workers, from top executives to rank-and-file employees? Philosophers, business leaders, government officials, and others have opinions on this goal. A national professional association, the Ethics and Compliance Officer Association, has been formed to help corporations address sticky ethical issues in the workplace. There is no one-glove-fits-all blueprint for creating an ethical corporation. Ethical business behaviors are encouraged when businesses do the following. They develop a clear vision of company values and mission. They publish a code of business conduct. They conduct ethics training programs. They reward employees who exhibit ethical behaviors. And they obey national and international laws. Ethical business practices make good business sense. First, ethical businesses are able to attract and retain honest and motivated employees. Second, ethical businesses develop reputations that can help them survive and prosper in the long run. And an ethical business can avoid costly litigation and government fines. After all, the dividing line between behavior that is legal but unethical and behavior that is outright illegal is easy to cross. By encouraging ethical behavior, a business can prevent its employees from getting too close to that line and decrease the chances they will cross it. There are questions employees can ask themselves to guide ethical behavior. Suppose that when staffing the tutor shop, You could hire less knowledgeable tutors who aren't qualified to teach and pay those tutors lower wages. You can apply the front page of the newspaper test by asking yourself whether you would want the action you are contemplating to appear in a newspaper headline. Would you want to read, "Tutor shop tutors are faking it" on the front page of the paper? If not, you shouldn't cut corners in that way. Other helpful questions include the following. Would society be worse off if everyone did the sort of thing I'm about to do? Would I want to be treated the way I'm treating others? What would the business leader I most respect do in this situation? What does my conscience tell me about whether this is right or wrong? Similar questions are useful for guiding individual decisions as well. As more firms do more business in more places, there is an expanded range of opportunities to do right or wrong. Globalization is the broadening access to products, people, businesses, technology, ideas, and money across national borders to create a more integrated and interdependent global economy. Globalization has created business opportunities and jobs for millions of people through expanded trade and business relationships among countries. But it has also intensified some of the ongoing debates about how business firms should behave. For example, should firms relocate to countries with lower standards for the treatment of workers and the environment? Issues of business ethics comes to the forefront as we struggle with such questions. Corporate social responsibility, or CSR, refers to the duties and obligations corporations have to different stakeholders. Discussions about corporate social responsibility spark heated controversies. Much of the debate about CSR deals with a basic question: to whom is a corporation responsible? With globalization, the number of people affected by corporate decisions has grown. A new medicine with dangerous side effects could affect customers around the world. A multinational corporation with unsafe working conditions could affect employees around the world. And a firm that releases toxic pollution could affect communities in wilderness areas around the world. One viewpoint is that corporations are socially responsible if they focus on production and profit maximization. Within the context of free enterprise, advocates of this view seek fair treatment for workers, rewards for investors, and compliance with existing laws in domestic and foreign markets. They believe the government, not businesses, should attend to broader social issues such as human rights, environmental decay, and the conditions for people in affected communities. These broader issues are viewed as distinct from the corporation's real mission to earn profits for investors. Profitable companies, in turn, supply goods to consumers, create jobs for workers, and invest in new technologies and capital goods. Profitable companies also pay taxes to support government programs, including programs that protect the environment and support the needy. Supporters of this viewpoint argue a rising tide raises all boats, that the success of many firms raises everyone's living standards. A second viewpoint is that corporations are socially responsible if they actively pursue two goals: business profits and a broader vision of good corporate citizenship. Advocates of this view say that to be good corporate citizens, firms should actively support the rights of workers, the safety of consumers, human rights, and respect for communities and the environment. Over the last decade, many corporations have moved closer to the second viewpoint. Today, most large corporations have a corporate code of conduct or a similar document that defines how the firm's policies and practices promote good corporate citizenship. The Google Corporate Code of Conduct emphasizes the phrase, "Don't be evil," which the company says is about serving customers well, but also doing the right thing more generally, following the law, acting honorably, and treating each other with respect. Walmart has a corporate statement of ethics that speaks of leading with integrity in the workplace, in the marketplace, and in the communities. And the basic principles listed among McDonald's standards of business conduct include not only we grow our business profitably, but also we operate our business ethically and we give back to our communities. That's the end of our lesson on business ethics, Unit 3, Lesson 4. You should now complete your concept check for this lesson, and we will talk about this lesson on our next class. Have a great day.